Hello, I'm Samantha Margret. I am a pop artist and songwriter. I'm from San Francisco, and I make music where pop art meets old Hollywood meets shenanigans.
Ooh, once I knew, what could I do but let you go? Oh, we all fall down, I know that now. I should've known back when your love felt like mine, back before love lost its shine. Now I know the smell of your skin when you're creeping in too late at night. Now I know the secrets you keep when you think I'm asleep, but I swear at the time your love felt like mine. Oh, I hope you find bedrock next time you build a home. She looks just like me, the way she's smiling now, like back before you let me down, back when your love felt like mine, back before love lost its shine. Now I know the smell of your skin when you're creeping in too late at night. Now I know the secrets you keep when you think I'm asleep, but I swear at the time your love felt like mine. You fooled me once is enough to know I can't go back to what we had, back when your love felt like mine, back before love lost its shine. Now I know the smell of your skin when you're creeping in too late at night. Now I know the secrets you keep when you think I'm asleep, but I swear at the time your love felt like mine. Your love felt like mine. The spaces in between my fingers, empty passenger side, empty drawers. This place is quiet where you linger, the hollow outline of a shape like yours. I don't do your silhouette in every shadow, edges of you that still cut me deep. Press my bruises so that I know the sweetness hiding in the vacancy. I don't do well without you, just lines to trace. Somebody tell me, what do I do with this negative space? Trying to feel it just left me worse off, sitting there safe until even it's gone. I don't do well without you, just lines to trace. Somebody tell me, what do I do with this negative space? Somebody tell me, what do I do? Somebody tell me, what do I do with this negative space? The spaces in between my fingers. Cucumber water running down my lips. Black ink, you got my number on your wrist. Tried to keep it cool this summer, live and let live. I think that we like each other, hers and his. Ooh, what are we gonna do? Crunch, crunch through. Climb the vine and taste the fruit. This cucumber summer. Cucumber summer. Got you wrapped around my finger, swaying with my hips. You make a vacation about staying in. Wanna Fanta or a midnight swim under the big moon with a big cucumber. Ooh, what are we gonna do? Crunch, crunch through. Climb the vine and taste the fruit. This cucumber, why don't you sit under my umbrella and have a snack, cucumber? I've got the salt and pepper, I just need your cucumber summer. Cucumber summer. I think that you and I like each other. Cucumber summer. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
There it is, Cucumber Summer. I actually grew up in San Francisco, so I have been here since before I was even born. And then now I sort of travel back and forth, and I'm here and I'm in LA sometimes, and I go to Nashville about once a quarter to write. But this is still where my heart is and where I first started writing music and performing and meeting people to form music community with. My favorite part about living in the city. I think it's the walking. I didn't know until I moved other places that you couldn't just walk everywhere. Because growing up in San Francisco, every neighborhood has everything that you could want, and you can just walk a mile and you're wherever you want to be. And I love that. And I love, gearing up for my day and walking to a coffee shop and then working from a coffee shop. And I actually miss that so much in quarantine, because if I walk around the block and then back to my own house. So it's a little bit less exciting, but I love being in a walking city. I I think that realizing I wanted to pursue music was a long journey for me. When I was really little, I loved singing, and I did a lot of singing. And like so many people who love music, grew up doing school musicals and school choirs, and that was a huge part of my identity. And then, but I do not come from a musical family, and so it just didn't seem like a real job to me. I didn't know anyone who had ever done art of any kind as a career. And so I went off to college thinking that that wasn't a real job and I needed to find a way to get a real job. And then I got a real job for a little while and was so miserable. And at that point, I'm really grateful to my partner, because at that point he was kind of like, well, you either need to find a way to not be miserable doing what you're doing, or do what you actually want to do, which I just don't think I fully understood was an option. And so that at that point I decided, okay, I'm going to go figure out what it means to be a musician and what it looks like to do that as a job. And that was like end of 2016, early 2017. And so that attitude of curiosity, honestly, is still what drives me forward. It's still that landscape of like, all right, how do I do the next thing that I have no idea how to do every day? So yeah, that's definitely, it's like wild to even think about how long that journey has been. Just so many people I know talk about how there was something that they loved as a child that either they ended up in that field, or that grew into, they loved plants, and now they work at an arboretum or a plant shop, or as a chef working with a garden, whatever. Like, I think there are things that are so core to who we are that they just work their way into our life even if we don't expect it. And for me, music was always so fundamental, but it just took me a really long time to understand how it could fit into my life, as more than just a thing I did every once in a while for fun, which it still is a lot of fun, but I love that I don't do it every once in a while. I love that I do it every day. So I feel like, since I was 8 years old and started voice lessons to now is really, it took me that long to understand how to be a musician. I I think that, as with everyone, 2020 has been a very hard, very complicated year. But I actually think that musically and professionally, I'm very grateful for it, because being on the road, and playing shows, and, being in LA or in Nashville and being just not home, not in my space, completely complicates creativity for me. I think, I try to be creative on the road, but it's such a different experience. And for me, like, I shows take up so much energy that then the day after a show, like, I don't necessarily want to go create something new and write. And so this year I have written more than I have ever written before. And I think just being able to have a pattern too, like waking up at the same time every day, going to bed at the same time, for the most part, being in the same space, as irritating as that was personally, it was so good for me creatively. And so I just have written, I mean, I go to this thing called Song Club with the LA Songwriters Collective, where every Thursday we bring a new song. And initially at the beginning of 2020, it was like, it was a challenge to get a finished song every Thursday. And now I'm like in this little competition with myself of, okay, what's the best song I can bring on Thursday? And so the idea that there are multiple songs every week to choose from to bring on Thursday is like such a joy and such a gift. So I think it has, 2020 dramatically impacted my creativity and my process. Interesting to think about what struggles I've overcome. I think I'm a very goal-oriented person. And so for me, and I try to stay really positive, and so I think of a lot of things as like the next challenge, the next mountain to climb. I think, for any independent artist, it's so, I mean, money is challenging, right? It's so challenging to figure out how you can do this creative thing that you love and earn enough money to also do things like, eat food and live in a house. And I think that is like an ongoing challenge. I think like so many indie artists, I always have like little side sound engineering jobs and demo singing and things that are not my project, that are not my creative project. And I'm always grateful when they're related to music. Sometimes they're more related, sometimes they're less related. But I think that's a challenge that I am continuing to tackle. I think, I'm very lucky now in that I have a team that's almost all women around me. When I was first starting out, it's just that took time to construct, because most people in the music industry, at least on the audio engineering, on the production side of things, on the industry side of things, it's very male dominated. I think there are actually a lot of women songwriting, but they're having trouble getting things out there because there are so many men on the industry side of things. And that was a real challenge initially, because I am a pretty strong-willed, assertive person, and I like to do things the way I like to do them, and I like my creative vision to come out the way I want it to come out. And certainly some men are less comfortable with that than others. And I definitely encountered a couple of like production situations where I was just being treated like a little girl who didn't know anything. And I am the first to admit that there's so much I don't know, but there are also a lot of things I do know. So that was really frustrating. But I think for me, I basically, my solution to that has been just to surround myself with really talented women in the music industry. And it just took me a little while to find them, but we're all over. So it was challenging to do just because of numbers, but it actually wasn't challenging to do at all based on talent and respect. I get so much more respect from my team now. When writing music, I am a big believer that the media that we take in really affects us and is important. So I think like the TV we watch, the movies we watch, the music we listen to, like all of those things are one way that culture gets in our heads, for better or for worse. Uh, and so because of that, I am really careful when I release music to only release things that I think are ultimately like positive or helpful messages for people to receive. And I don't mean that they're happy. I think there's a lot of sadness and emotional processing. And I have a song, Feminist GF, that's pretty angry. I think a lot of different feelings can be good for us to process. But I definitely want to portray myself and ideas about like healthy versus unhealthy coping mechanisms, and an understanding of like what it means to be a woman, that are I want to portray those things in a way that I think is constructive and good for people. So that is a big thing when I'm releasing music. I think when I'm writing music, it's a little bit more anything goes. I do a lot of co-writing, and I really believe in the power and the magic of just like bringing your full attention to the space and seeing what happens. And I have co-writers where sometimes we write something amazing that I'm so excited about, and then other times the same two people get together and it's like, okay, that was kind of a mediocre song. So I think that for me, the writing process is much more like, I'm just going to do whatever I feel. I'm going to write with people I love to write with and have a good time. And then a lot of the curating, a lot of the process of deciding what topics actually make it into my artist project happens after the fact, when I'm producing and figuring out what to release. Latest release of mine and Negative Space, which I call a mini EP, but it's just a little 2-song pack. I had Mine, the song Mine. Some songs for me take a really long time to write, where I'm sort of chipping away at them for months and months. And then some songs I write very quickly, and then it doesn't feel like there's as much that needs to change. And Mine is a song that I wrote pretty quickly, and then had and was playing at live shows all the time. But it's really different than a lot of my other music. It's first of all, it's a love song. I don't do a ton of love songs. It's also really slow. It's not just a ballad. It's really slow and pretty long. And I do a lot of shorter, more mid-tempo or up-tempo music. And so I just had it. I had it around. I had my friend Mia had put cello on it, and I had sort of been putting the production together slowly. But I wasn't really sure how it was going to fit into everything else I was doing. And then I wrote Negative Space with a friend, with Bethany Warner. And that song seemed to match Mine. Like, they really became, in my mind, this little 2 ballad piece. They just went together for me. Even though they're a little different, but they just are in the same world. And so I was thinking about it more and more, and I think there's this temptation to be worried about branding and marketing and release schedules. And I just kind of had this moment of like, I should put out the music I think is good. and I should do that when it feels right. And so I thought it would just be fun to release them on Valentine's Day and kind of do a heartbreak holiday Valentine's Day release. So it honestly is one of the most organic releases I've ever done, where I just had this music that felt like it went together, that felt like it should come out on Valentine's Day. It was actually a little bit of a race to the finish to get Negative Space mastered in time. And I'm so glad it came together and worked out. And in many ways it was less stressful, because I just was like, well, I don't know, this is just happening. It's what's meant to happen. So that's kind of how those two ended up out in the world. For me, I think I really value creativity above all else. I think I try to never write the same song twice. Like, if something lands, that's great, but I also want to do something new every single time. And I think that's what I really admire in a lot of other artists who I look up to is just their ability to be inventive, and to create. And so for me, I think it's been really important to establish myself as an artist who doesn't do only one thing. And I think with these ballads, that is really where I started in terms of performing. Is it was me and a piano, and that was it. And there was no band initially, and there was no real production background. And I think that has been a piece of who I am as an artist, that as I've gotten more and more into also producing my own music and performing with the trigger pad and doing more of this technological stuff, I've almost felt like I can't release piano stuff anymore. Like, I can't do ballads, I can't do the piano stuff because it's different. And I think the thing about Mine and Negative Space that was kind of magical for me is it was very freeing to just decide I am all of the things that I am, and it's okay for me to release music that's from that perspective, which is just me. And that all of that is my sound if I made it and I like it. And so I definitely think, I've thought about doing more. Like, I've thought about next February, do I want to also do another ballad or two for Valentine's Day? I've thought about repeating it more exactly, but I think on a broader scale, the thing that was important for me about it was deciding that I could sort of be an all of the above artist, where any song I wrote that I love, I could produce and put out. All right. I am Samantha Margret. I have been, will continue to be Samantha Margret. You can find me on all of the places at Samantha Margret, spelled, my last name is a little funny. It's Margret. I also have a Patreon, which is really the best place to actually be involved. So if you're like, I love this music, I love this person, I want to help decide what album art she uses or what song comes out next, or find out about, secret shows or things like that, that is all on my Patreon. And so that's just patreon.com/Samantha Margret. Yeah, that's the best place to really join the team. And then everywhere else, I would love to talk to you. So if you have a favorite song, if you want me to do a cover, get in touch. I love hearing from people, and especially now that we're all so separate and there are no shows for people to tell me what's going on. That would be awesome.